It's the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast with your hosts, the Wolf and Action Jackson, who are keeping rock alive by talking classic rock, hard rock, progressive rock, heavy metal, 80s music, early MTV, UK vs. US chart success, and much more. This is the home of classic album and live concert reviews and your place for interviews with artists and legends. You're rocking with the Wolf. Out there, rock and rollers. Welcome to episode number 268 of the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast. Brought to you by me, your host, Mac B. the Wolf, and I will be joined, as I always am, by my partner in crime from the East Coast of the USA, Mr. Gary Action Jackson. And we hope you enjoyed last week's show on Styx Paradise Theater. It was kind of the last big album from the boys in Styx. Before Kilroy was here, before Mr. Roboto, before the band had to take a break for a while. But this week we are super excited because we're welcoming guests that we've been courting for a while here on The Wolf, hoping to talk to him, as he is the singer of Rival Sons, a band that we admittedly got to a little bit late in life, but are so glad that they're around. They're one of the true last great rock bands carrying the torch for everybody. And lead singer Jay Buchanan is finally releasing his debut solo album, Weapons of Beauty, which is out February 6th. And for those of you who know him from his powerful vocals in Rival Sons, well, you're going to get plenty of powerful vocals on this one, but this has a little bit more soul, country, folk, Americana to it. A much more sparse album as far as the instrumentation goes, but all the power of Jay's amazing voice and some real introspection, some very personal and thoughtful lyrics. He's just been so busy with Rival Sons over these last, 15 years, 17 years, whatever it's been, that he never really did get around to recording a solo album. But finally he found time in his schedule, and he forced himself out into the Mojave Desert to be by himself so he can feel all those feelings, become introspective, and squeeze out some really emotional and personal and heartfelt lyrics, which he then worked with his longtime producer Dave Cobb to create Weapons of Beauty with some real pros from Nashville. Now, it's not exactly like Rival Sons, but you will hear and feel Rival Sons within these songs, even though it's not the same genre of music. But we really enjoyed talking with Jay. He's soft-spoken, but he's very thoughtful. He's very articulate. He can express himself with words better than most, and was not the rambunctious rock star that you might see on stage, just a chill father talking about making a very personal album and putting it out into the world. Now, the first track, Caroline, was the first single, and you can find that out on streaming services. The second single, True Black, was just released last week as we're releasing this podcast, and you'll be able to hear snippets of both those songs here during the interview. We found Jay to be great, and we want to get to him. But first, we do have a little bit of business to take care of. We always like to mention we are proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a family of over 100 different shows. You can learn more at pantheonpodcast.com or follow us on socials at Pantheon Pods. And we keep getting great orders in from our worldwide intergalactic sponsor, rarevinyl.com. I know a lot of you are record collectors out there. Rarevinyl.com has records and singles and CDs and posters and collectibles from all over the world, and they ship all over the world. Over 250,000 items in stock in the UK. So whatever you might be into, maybe you're looking for some old Rival Sons records, maybe you want that original Led Zeppelin album with the blue lettering on it, maybe you want special picture discs or rare releases, whatever it may be, go to rarevinyl.com, find some stuff that you love, and then you can use the code UGLY, UGLY, to save 10% at checkout. Now that's a one-time code, but it's not just for one item, it's for everything in your basket. So go buy 10 different things. Go buy all the picture discs you wish you had growing up. Go buy all those imports from your favorite band. Whatever it might be, buy them all at once, and then you can save a big fat 10% with the code UGLY. So go to rarevinyl.com, use the code UGLY, save 10%. Your record collection will thank you. Now back to Jay Buchanan. Lovely guy. So glad we had a chance to talk to him, and didn't just get to talk about Weapons of Beauty, his soulful new album, but got to talk a little bit about what's going on with Rival Sons, got to talk about touring with Black Sabbath and playing the last show with Ozzy in Birmingham this past July, how special that was to him. We've even talked a little bit about being in Deliver Me From Nowhere, the Bruce Springsteen biopic, in which he was featured singing on stage with Jeremy Allen White. The writer-director of which, Scott Cooper, actually played a very pivotal role in the runtime and track list on this album. So it comes out February 6th, Weapons of Beauty, the debut solo album from Jay Buchanan, lead singer of Rival Sons. And we're speaking with Jay today here on The Wolf. Now, I would say, in just going over this album however many times I've done it, Jay's lyrics have always been pretty personal.
Yeah.
But this is a whole nother level, dude.
There's a couple of, there's some heavy duty themes in this, and there are a couple on here that are kind of brutal. Oof, 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 oof.
I know. I mean, only an experienced grown man could write this album.
Right. Yeah, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like a 22-year-old who's trying to make it in the world, even if you've had a rough life, you couldn't have written this album.
Right. Yeah. Especially that first song. The first song is very, very, it has to do with relationships. It has nothing to do about you've lived your life. This is a heavy duty theme that is, yeah. I mean, I don't know where he got it from, but it's pretty rough.
Which is, I mean, look, if you have that in you, if you have that ability to look for what's going on in one's soul and what does one need to feel good, to feel human, to feel loved, whatever it is, and you can crank all this out, I think you should do it. But it's kind of, it couldn't have been easy. I mean, it couldn't have been easy to feel the emotions and feel the thoughts. I mean, I know what he did. He went out to the middle of the Mojave Desert and lived in a bunker. Not every single day. I think he would go home like on the weekend or something like that. But he sequestered himself, basically entombed himself almost. It's kind of a dichotomy. He was either in this mine underground or he was out in this great expanse, alone either way, except for maybe some coyotes.
Yeah.
Waiting to see maybe what he's got going on the fire there. Yeah.
And I've been out to the desert once or twice. It was a while ago, but I can imagine, especially if you're there at night, all strange things start to occur to you and reveal themselves to you in the silence and darkness out there.
Yeah. And he's captured so much of that here.
And so that's an interesting point too. Like if you're somebody coming into play on this record, how do you, as the person you wrote this, convey to them the weight of this deal? Or, I mean, or are you a pro at your instrument? You say, I got you. I know where I think I know where you're going on this. Let me just groove here and I'll get you where you need to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's part of that. I mean, the guys he got are total pros from Nashville who can kind of do whatever you need them to, but still.
This is not what I'm saying is that it's not a collaborative deal. Like he wrote these songs for you to play. So what do you need me to do here?
Yeah, because I don't want to screw that up.
Right, exactly. It's totally wrong, you jerk.
These are too personal.
Right.
For me to just screw up by whatever noodling I might feel like goes on here. Yeah. You know what else I like about Jay, and really all the members of the Rival Sons, is they have style. They dress cool.
100%. And all the time, too. Like, I've never seen him in sweats. It's always suit. Shoes are optional for him.
Yeah.
But he's always got the suit and usually a cool hat on, too.
Waistcoat, maybe, yeah. And, I mean, Scott may have given us an interview in a T-shirt or something like that, but he always has his shades on. He always has his beard and hair coiffed. They always look right.
Yeah.
I kind of want to be light and have some fun and get him laughing, but some of the stuff on here is heavy duty, man.
Somebody say heavy duty.
Heavy duty, Jay, yeah.
We try and stay away from it, but every once in a while.
If you make these super personal lyrics, I don't see what choice we have but to go down this path, buddy.
How you boys doing?
We are doing well. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Yeah. And so Mac and Gary, you guys doing all right?
Yeah. Rolling into the new year.
We really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, sure.
We love Rival Sons. We love Talita, and she invited me to go to your gig in the UK, but I'm spending more time in the US these days.
Where in the US are you, Matt?
I'm in the Midwest now. I'm in Louisville.
Yeah.
And Jackson's just north of Jacksonville, Florida, in southeast Georgia.
Yeah, great. I love Louisville and Jacksonville. Love it out there, too.
I know you got a lot of fans there.
Yeah, I haven't been to Jacksonville. Actually, I think I was there last year.
Well, you recorded this album in Savannah, right?
I did.
Okay, so well, it's not closer than Jacksonville, but it's pretty close, and I've got some family there.
Closer than Los Angeles.
That's for
That
sure.
is
Yeah.
that is correct. Yes.
Well, thanks so much for being here, Jay. Welcome to the Ugly American Werewolf in London. And congratulations on your new album.
Thank you.
I mean, anytime a band that we admire, like Rival Sons, if someone's going to do a side project, we get excited. And not because it's going to sound just like the band that we love, but because we know that you can do more than maybe what people expect from the mothership band. And man, you went deep, you went personal, and you really opened yourself up. You showed vulnerabilities that I don't think I could as a man and a man of my age. We're all about the same age here, but you've lived and you learned, and you want to share some of that with the world.
It's interesting. I mean, back when Rival Sons, first of all, thank you. Back when the band got started, I mean, everybody understood the band, management, everyone expected me to be writing and releasing solo records and touring and doing all of these things. Everyone was anticipating that. But really, we got started, and looking back now, it's hard to believe. The me from 2008 would have been furious that I waited so long. But I mean, this is kind of what happens, because the identity, and I don't say identity as if there's a partition within myself, but the identity of a full-time rock band, because it takes a lot, it takes a lot of writing, and just, that's the hat you're wearing. I just kept putting it off. I kept putting it off, and everybody I know would ask me all the time. My producer, and good friend Dave Cobb, all of my friends, even the guys in the band. Yeah, so are you going to make a solo record? So what do you
Right.
do? And it was always like, oh yeah, I'm working on it. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Next year, maybe later this year. It's like, yeah, there's always something else to do, in family, et cetera, et cetera. And so you put off these very important works for the right time, and then you just kind of lose sight of it, because there is no right time, The right time is right now.
That's right.
And it's not like Rival Sons ever took a break either. It seems like you guys are always either
That's right.
recording
Yeah.
or on tour.
Exactly. No, we never took a break, and we never intended to take a break, but I think it's a lot of woodshedding with that band. And, my responsibility in writing, it's always trying to dig deep and like, well, okay, where am I now? Where are we going to go with this? Because if there's one thing, there are many things I could say about Rival Sons. But one thing is for sure is we don't rest on our laurels. And that band we've made it a point to constantly evolve, constantly evolve our sound and the identity of the band. I don't think any two of our records have anything in common. I don't know how nice that is for the fan base or anybody else. But for us, that's the way that we have to do things.
Well, I love it.
It was interesting you say that, because I think that's, as a fan, that's kind of part of your responsibility, maybe, to follow along and just say, I like where you guys started from. I like where you're headed. It might not be exactly the same thing, but I can groove with this. I can get into it.
I think that when, if you were to take a poll, if you were able to poll, your entire audience or the world at large, I'd say like, well, what do you want? And then they would say, well, we want them to stay the same. But then if you stayed the same, they'd say, we just want them to branch out. So you can't win in that respect.
Nope.
Because you're never going to please people. And I think that us choosing to please ourselves, that's dependable, and kicking it at our own stalls and try to push our own personal boundaries. I think that's priority one, because that's the only thing we're really in charge of. That's what we have control over, is our creative trajectory.
True enough. Yeah.
So with that being said, how do you find it, or how do you manage writing by yourself for a solo project versus writing with the band? I would think part of it would be a little bit easier, because no one's going to tell you, hey, I don't like this, or why don't we do it a different way? But at the same time, you're like, does everybody like this?
Yeah. Well, even in Rival Sons, nobody tells me anything.
Okay.
Like, for the most part, that said, it's a collaboration,
Right.
like with my writing, Scott Holiday, he's my primary writing partner, for everything in Rival Sons, and I think that, it always being a collaboration, you have someone to answer to, and it's, no matter what, it's a compromise. We're a rock band. So there are things like the drums will be big and there's always going to be a riff somewhere, you know?
With Holiday around, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like it's going to be okay. Well, we need to make room and make sure that there's a riff, and that well, if there's a riff, we got to have a guitar solo, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, the list goes on because with writing with Rival Sons and for Rival Sons, wherever I'm at personally, and you know, whatever my part of our writing is, you have to leave room for the identity of the entire band. You know, and even within the band, it's a disparate collection of personalities that you have there in creative approaches. So you're going to be beholden to wanting to govern or, you know, govern that well and make sure that, you know, leave room for everybody because that's their identity. You don't want to fuck with that. You want to make sure that everyone has their lane.
That's right.
Because it can be really, especially like between Scott and I, we're both drivers. When neither one of us are passengers. And early on, I think that there was a more of a power struggle. I mean, there's always a power struggle, but I mean, with that, it's learning to compromise and trust each other, I think was a large education, you know, a broader education for both he and I creatively in Rival Sons, you know, one that, you know, now it's certainly better than it's ever been. We're working on our next record that we'll be going into record very soon.
Very good.
Excellent.
Getting back to your actual, to the actual question, writing solo where it's completely unhinged and untethered, and I have no one to answer to. I think that I didn't go into any of this with any preconceived concept that I was going to be writing about, or even the sound. I only knew that there was going to be a lot of space. I was going to be trying to write with space and frame everything around the vocals, and the nature of the writing in terms of like the ethos. Everything needed to be introspective and as close to the bone as possible, because it's like this is the avenue for me to do that, for me to be as confessional or as personal, and whether or not there's an audience for that sort of writing, or just with any of it, you know, nobody's really looking for me as a solo artist or as a singer-songwriter. That's a flooded market, you know, with Americana and all of that. But I knew that for me, it was very important that whatever piece it is, I needed to do my best to actually say my piece and to write about these things and the contents within. For me, that was the only concept, was just really meet it, write about things that are important to me, whether it's whatever the subject matter is.
Yeah, you mentioned being close to the bone. There are definitely a couple of references that I picked up on anyway that are just, they seem like they're very personal. And even while I can't relate to some of them, I can feel the amount of energy you put into it and your feelings on that. And it really comes to like, wow, I see this story from someone else's eyes. And that's pretty clear.
Like Sway. I mean, Sway is powerful how desire comes and goes, and about wanting you now while you're still young, but I want you old. This isn't a fleeting thing. This is something deep and emotional and important. It's not just, hey baby, you look mighty cute in them jeans, you know, kind of thing.
I think that a song like Sway, I wanted to, the world doesn't need another love song. There are so many, but at the same time, you can't have enough love songs.
There you go.
Okay, so wait. You say we don't need another love song. I agree with you, but this feels like a genuine love song, not just like a sappy, you know, I love you.
I think when you think of the term love song, okay, this with this song, what I was trying to do with the writing was to not write about love from the conventional sense that it's written about. I wanted to write about love as a noun, you know, like a house or something tangible, because it's saying, oh, I love that person. Oh, I love you. Well, that's transitory and it's transactional. But to actually write about this thing I have, this thing that I have, that I feed and that I nurture, this love that exists. It's a very different sort of notion. And I wanted to write from that perspective. And the song Sway in particular, it's antagonistic, but I really wanted to employ patience, and I wanted to force that patience on the voyeur. Beginning the song, it's very slow, And the instrumentation is very sparse. And just saying a couple of words, have you seen? And then you just have space, like another 15 seconds before that sentence is even addressed or finished, you know. Have you seen the way that desire comes and goes? And I wanted to write with that kind of space and force that patience on the listener and challenge them because love is patient, because you have to wait. When you really have this love, you are at the mercy of your subject. And it's vulnerable because it's not something you have control over. And so you're forced to wait, you know. Right. Anyways.
Well, and I think you're forced to go through the ups and downs too. Like you said, you have to nurture it, or it's not a steady concept. It will come and it will go, and it's up to you to make it work. If
Exactly.
that's what you want.
That's well put. Yes.
Well done, Jackson. Yeah.
Oh, hey, first time for everything. Hey, all right.
Well, but I mean, when you're writing with Holiday or whomever, there's some push and pull there. Like, let's make this better. I'll take this. You take that. Let's do this. Make room for Mike, make room for Dave, whatever. But on this, it's just you. There's no push and pull. You're pushing and pulling within yourself to find
certainly
what needs to come out of there. And I just figured that can't be easy. And maybe that's why you secluded yourself in the desert to do it.
I think I secluded myself in the desert because, I've got a full house here at home and, full family, got mother-in-law, everybody, that's under the roof. And I love a big family and I love a noisy house, and I love a big crowded table.
Nice.
At home. But when it comes to writing, I need space. And I knew that I needed to go somewhere and not be fucked with at all. I, for me, for writing, even when I'm writing for the Sons, same thing. I need space. I need to be able to hear my own. I need to hear what my mind's eye is, and
sure.
when you just have when you got a bunch of chaos and everything that is family living, or even when we're out on tour, I tend to not write a lot when we're out on tour, other than I like to run every day. So I'll go on these long runs, or sometimes just a super long walk wherever in the world we are. And I'll tend to get more writing done in those times when it's just totally quiet. Choosing to sequester myself out in the Mojave Desert, it happened in the desert really just because I needed somewhere to go. And I called an old friend of mine from childhood. I knew that he had a few hundred acres out in the middle of the desert. He breeds exotic reptiles.
All right.
Like Egyptian uromastyx and Moroccan uromastyx and reticulated pythons and, just like this sort of stuff. And I called him up and I said, BK, do you think I could set up a tent or a yurt somewhere out on your property for a couple of months? I have a lot of writing to do and I don't have a lot of time. And I knew that I had a couple of months, but for me, that's not a lot of time. Sometimes I can move like a turtle, and sometimes I'm like a cheetah, but I just never know what I'm going to get.
Day to day, yeah.
So I said, I just need somewhere to go where I can be alone. But I said, do you have any structures or anything like that on the property? And he says, well, yeah, man, I have an underground bunker. Will that work? I said, that sounds perfect, man. So we set that up. Having grown up in the mountains right on the foot of the Mojave Desert, I'm very familiar with the desert. I spent all my formative years out in the desert. And I feel so fortunate that it all came together where I was able to be somewhere that feels very much like home for me, a place that I was very, very comfortable with. It being an underground bunker, I mean, all of that stuff just came together. It's an interesting story, that's for sure. But it was first and foremost, it was necessity that I didn't realize until I was finished with it all. What an interesting how it reads,
Like the PR copy, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking with like my manager or my publicists and stuff, and they go, "Really? It was like that?" And I go, "Well, yeah, that's how it worked. I did everything. Lived off of a gas generator out there, and my bathroom was a shovel. Just living that way, and it really wasn't difficult. It really wasn't a difficult experience. It was. I could have taken longer, I suppose, than I did because there's always that feeling: did I go deep enough? Have I said what needs to be said? There's always this like unrequited nature to it, and not being sure that I'm finished with the statement. Like right up until the day before I had to fly out to Savannah, I was racking my brain, feeling insecure. Like, "Oh, I don't know if I have it together. Because I hadn't shown anyone any of the songs. I hadn't shared anything with Dave Cobb, and that was the 10th record that I've made with Cobb.
Wow. And did you have a tape of you singing maybe guitar or something like that?
No, I didn't bring anything. I didn't show anyone anything.
Okay.
And so there was no sounding board for me,
Got you.
you know? And so I had that, I believe it's a healthy insecurity.
True. And your voice, I mean, look, we know you from the records you've made with Rival Sons, some of which you may see over that shoulder if you squint really hard. I've got a couple stacked up there. And obviously you have this amazing voice. It's why you've been able to do what you do for so long. But your voice against the clamor of the Rival Sons versus some of the sparse, like you say, instrumentation on here, it really stands out. And something like Shower of Roses, you know, how do you stay yourself while you play somebody else? And just powerful singing against nothing is so much more stark and beautiful than powerful singing against the ringing of the fuzz lord behind you. It just, in my opinion, and I'm not judging one's better than the other, you know, I'm just saying the power to me was kind of overwhelming. I had to kind of step back and be like, Jackson, can you hear this, man?
Yeah. Well, you know, for all of the clamoring and all of the noise and the bravado that's involved in Rival Sons. And I hear you, but trust me, no one loves Scott's playing and his tones. No one loves them more than I do. That's for sure. So often I listen to him and they feel like my hands playing. I'm so intimately aware of Scott's vocabulary that so often, you know, when he can send me like a work tape or, you know, as we're writing remotely, and he'll send me something he's working on and I can see his hands. And as soon as I start playing, I know exactly, like, oh yeah. And then over the years, we've taken, like Scott and I have developed a hybrid Scott and Jay like hand. There's definitely a shorthand there. Anyways, thank you, Mac. But with this material, wanting to make doing more with less, you know, and making the statements a lot simpler. And that was one thing that I knew that I wanted. I wanted the emptiness and the space to be part of the arrangement.
Gotcha.
I wanted the emptiness and the space to be just as much part of the song as any of the musicians playing. You know, these pauses and the restraint. Restraint is, I think, one of the key players and perhaps the star player of the entire album. But employing this restraint was important to me because this isn't an opportunity that I have with Rival Sons. It's exactly the opposite. Rival Sons is a rock band, in my opinion. You know, it's some of the best rock music out there, and it's certainly my favorite rock band.
One of the biggest and best in the world. I'll say it.
I love
to.
it. Yeah. I'm crazy. You know, I stand by our records, and, you know, I see the band as a whole. It's a collection of really great personalities and players. So I love that. And you know, everything that we've made, I stand by, and I'm very proud of it. But I knew that with this solo material, I wanted to take that unrequited poetry and I wanted to take the introspection and really chew it down to the marrow and to make the instrumentation sparse. Of course, there are a couple of songs where it's not. Songs like True Black, you know, that's like a gospel barn burner, or Deep Swimming. And that song's insane. And maybe we can get into the story of that song
Definitely.
later. But,
Sure.
Or songs like Dance Me to the End of Love, where there's a lot going on in these songs. And the instrumentation is lush, or The Great Divide. But for the most part, I really just wanted to employ the emptiness as part of the color swatch that I had to choose from in putting these arrangements together.
Out of my mouth comes the flame. The sun comes back up and my first word is always your name. Caroline, my hands make the shape of yours in mine.
Well, that's one thing that came through to me, and I hope that we can get this across to people. If you out there in the listening universe are a fan of Rival Sons, you will love this record. It's not the same thing. It's very different, but the vibe that you kind of carry through it is the same, and you'll love it. And the more that you listen to these songs, the more it kind of builds on your understanding and your kind of grasp of what's going on there. You mentioned sparse, but there's still a lot going on. The messages in these songs are pretty heavy duty.
Hey, this is Scott Holiday from the Rival Sons. You're listening to the Ugly American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, the writing is incredibly personal and so good. The poetry, if you will. How do you stay yourself while you play someone else? And I didn't get the lyric sheet, so this is just me transcribing from what I heard off the record. But when the crowds have all gone, the light goes down on the stage. You just want them to say you never took more than you gave. Oh, man. That is heavy and deep. It's not very rock star either. Rock star's kind of me, gimme.
Oh yeah, that's an argument I've been having for the last 17 years. Go ahead.
I was going to say, for those in the listening universe here, I don't know what it's like to be on stage. I don't know what it's like to perform in front of people and have the lights go down. But you conveyed that to me in a sense where I'm like, now I understand part of it. I get what it's like to go along with you. Like, you're talking about voyeur. It's like I'm looking from the side of the stage. I'm like, oh, I see what he's doing. I understand the performer's point of view.
Well, that's good to hear, man. That's good to hear, Gary. I think being on stage and all of that, just so you know, it's just like this. There's just more people watching. But it's just like this. And that's one thing for me, like performing or whatever. People talk about persona or whatever. The guy that's on stage is the same guy that's sitting here. I'm in a bathrobe. I don't have a stage persona or an alter ego or anything like that. Well, I'm glad that those songs and that introspection comes across to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like the first song, Caroline, it's the single. I was making notes and blah blah blah, and then I have lost love, comma, but it's way worse than you think. Like if you listen to the record, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, this keeps getting worse. Oh, my heart is breaking listening to this, because I can imagine, after somebody who's been married for coming up on 25 years, that concept of losing this person to something that's beyond your control is just devastating. And to me, it really comes through in that song. I'm not crying. You're crying.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
my
I
goodness.
was. So
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, that's one. I think that just being attracted to those sad country waltzes,
Yeah.
growing up and just loving all those old George Jones songs and stuff like that. And you listen to it, or Gordon Lightfoot, where you're like, Jesus Christ, man, perk the fuck up, Gordo. But there's something about that when you go throughout your life. I think that we can identify with these sad stories, because throughout your daily life, man, you don't want to get into the quagmire. You don't want to get into the reeds and the muck that is part of life. And so I think that sometimes when you hear these sad songs that you can relate to, they give you permission to feel that way for a little bit. And then the song's done, and then you can move on.
Yeah. Yeah. But during the song, it definitely feels like this has happened to somebody in real life, and you can, for that couple of minutes, you can kind of not sympathize if you haven't gone through it, but empathize and say, I can't even imagine how hard that would be. But I would think I would have the same feelings if it were me.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be a sad song. I mean, Deep Swimming is a very upbeat kind of fun song, but you get a line like, there's a lot of good living we forget to do. The hours we trade are supposed to be few. I'm supposed to be with my family. You know it as a father, we do. Mm-hmm. You want to be with your kids. You want to be with your family, but you have to go out in the world and you have to travel, and you more than most, I would say, and say, it was fine when I was younger, but now that I'm older, am I really supposed to be gone all this time? It gets harder as your kids get older, as you get older, to be out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think Deep Swimming, that song in particular, has an interesting story. About halfway in between here, my house, I live on the east side of Los Angeles, out in Whittier, And about halfway in between here and where I was staying up in the Mojave Desert, I'd stay up there for 6 or 7 nights. And then I would come home for 2 days and be with my family. And then I'd drive back out there. And I have my big old tour van, and I would load it up with all of my instruments and my gas generator and all my gas cans and everything. About halfway in between here and there is my hometown of Wrightwood, where my parents still live.
Ah.
And I would drop in and see them every now and again. But there was one time I stopped and I had some lunch on my way out there. Had some lunch with my mother and father. And as we were finishing up, my mother says, "Hey, you have a couple of boxes back in one of the closets in the back of the house." What? Well, what's in there? She's like, "I don't know. It's just a bunch of old things." And she says, "Do you want to take it?" And I said, "Well, of course. You guys, I don't want to put that on you guys." So I grabbed these few boxes, I think 3 boxes and an old backpack. And I loaded into the van. And then I'd head out to the desert. And then I was riding, a night or two later. And it wasn't really coming, which is more frequent than it coming. You hit the dry spells where you're just sitting there with your pole in the water, just, okay.
Waiting for that bite.
Just think fish. Or just this time of just like sitting there, just staring at the wall. Okay. All right. Here it goes. But so anyways, I was having one of those nights and I thought, oh, hey, those boxes, I wonder what's in there. So I go out and I get up onto the hill where I'm parked near the bunker, and I go and I load these boxes in them. And in these boxes, it was old like newspaper clippings from when I was a teenager, high school yearbooks, love letters, photographs, like all kinds of, it's like a time capsule, right? Mm-hmm. Diploma, like all of this stuff, and old songwriting journals and just all kinds of things.
Wow.
And I start rifling through this stuff. And then, a few things from like my very early 20s. And again, it's, getting notoriety and, people writing about you and things like that, where at the time it was so important. It was a big deal. So anyways, I'm going through these things and all of these old photographs and keepsakes. And I started getting these feelings. I don't like the way this feels. I don't like the me who I am now, interfacing with the me from all those years ago. There's so much road, so many miles in between those two things, that interfacing with the old me, the adolescent me that had so much to learn, as the me who still has so goddamn much to learn, it made me uncomfortable. And so I think that after going through the time, looking at the yearbooks and going through all of this, I took it all outside and I burned it.
Wow.
Yeah. I took it all outside and I threw it on the fire and I watched it burn. And even doing that gave me a little bit of conflict. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? I'm not sure, but this feels like the right thing to do. I've lived without all of this for decades, and there's no reason for me to ever look back, or there's no reason for me to do that. My wife gets really upset with me because I'm not a curator of my own past that way.
Gotcha. You're not super nostalgic.
I'm not nostalgic that way, and I'm a big one for like, there are no glory days. The glory days are in front of me, and that's the way I've always lived. So I know, watching all of these things burn. The next day, I began writing. I woke up. That even before I got off of my rickety little cot in my sleeping bag, I was hearing something, and I got up right away and grabbed my guitar and I hit record, and I had to go out and turn on the generator.
Of course.
And I started writing Deep Swimming. So if you look at Deep Swimming, as soon as the song starts, all of the lyrics are like, it's as if you're rifling through a box of old keepsakes, because all of the lyrics, they're just one sentence descriptions of something you're looking at. The coats and the clocks and the memories, and the clouds like outstretched arms, the summer sprinklers and the fescue, and clock radios and circus charms, the late night movie marathons. It goes on and on throughout the whole song, and it doesn't let up, but it describes the expanse of these years in its own way. And I think that burning those things and burning these effigies of my youth, writing a song about it allowed me to digitize it, if you will, and put it in, and to reconcile with it in a way that's digestible to me, and to pay homage and to pay respect to it by writing about it, in a roundabout way. And I don't think I would have written a song. I wouldn't have written that song. And certainly not in that way. I don't think if it were for that experience.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredibly
that's
personal.
very very heavy duty.
Yeah.
But I think it's also pretty healthy if you don't want to hang on to, not that you don't want to remember the past, kind of like, oh, I remember when that happened, ha ha, but to live in the past and like you said, oh well, things were better, the glory days were year. No, I mean it's the road ahead is what's exciting.
Those things they will endure, but the things live on as internal petroglyphs on the inside of your cave, and just letting them live that way, it felt much more appropriate. I didn't want my kids to have to like keep track of my trash once I'm gone someday. Like, yeah, here's this thing that's super important to me. Now it has to be important to you forever.
Right.
Gee, thanks.
I don't want to.
You can sell this on eBay for 5.5, whatever.
Yeah.
I find most artists are actually like that, Jay, is that they aren't great curators. They may want to keep their songwriting books or the personal stuff to them. But like Nancy Wilson from Heart basically forced her husband, Cameron Crowe, to throw away all of his treasures from when he was a young writer meeting rock stars. Like, what is all this junk? And like to a fan like me and Jackson, it's like, well, that's my ticket stub from when I saw Rival Sons the first time. Or that's, the wristband they gave me to go in to see the Rolling Stones. Like, these are all treasured items for us. But what's important to you is the making of this music and what got you there and what's going to get you to that next song, that next album, that next show. And I just feel like that the artist is always moving forward. And it's the folks like us who can't do what you do, that those little keepsakes are more important because they remind us of something, not only a special time in our life, but it's something we couldn't do on our own. We needed you to play that night for us to have those memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And I think that all of these things, they exist and you hold on to them if you have a predisposition to hold on to them. And it depends on your perspective of the experience, holding on like, okay, Nancy Wilson forcing Cameron Crowe to get rid of things. Obviously, that just seems healthy because I'm either that guy or I'm this guy. Whatever survived of that guy and those, the backstage passes or just like whatever it is, whatever exists of that is carried naturally within me. And when I think about, I don't focus or rely on origin story all that much, because I just don't think it's important. I don't think the past demands that of me. I think that the me now demands it of himself and whatever remnants of the past. Like if I get scratched hard enough, you're going to see the previous coats of paint, but otherwise I don't think it's important.
I'm with you. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan once said, you don't find yourself, you create yourself.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. And, like I was, what was it? I checked out Stephen Wilson Jr., his latest record. If you've listened to him, if you haven't listened to him, go check him out. He's great songwriter. But I was watching him in a few different interviews and everything he talks about, every sentence somehow goes back to his daddy, his hometown. You know what I mean? And it was like everything. And it was like, wow, that's so different. I'm just so not like that. It's like it doesn't all trace back and come from one wellspring. I think that I like to continuously burn and renew.
Absolutely. Well, just to digress a bit, because we can't wait for Weapons of Beauty to come out. We haven't even talked about the penultimate track yet, which I think we should. But, you're one of the last great rock bands in the world, and you've played with some of the all-time greats. I can name them: Kiss, Rolling Stones, Black Sabbath. You were with Black Sabbath for the End of the Road the whole time. They handpicked you to be with them. In fact, when we had Holiday on, he was talking about how he's got a picture of him in front of the marquee at the Hollywood Bowl where it's Black Sabbath, Rival Sons. But the End of the Road, they had the big send-off for Ozzy last year, which of course you were a part of.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, he was gone. But I just wanted to kind of see what was your feelings on that day, because everyone who I've talked with is like, that was an incredible day. Great to see Ozzy off, sure. But just to be around all of that talent who had some kind of connection to the band over the years to help us get to where we got was huge, and just a good day overall. What did you take out of that day or those days?
July 5th, 2025 is a day I will never forget. I think that
it was the day before your 50th birthday too, right?
I turned 50 years old that night.
Wow.
What a way to, to turn 50. That day is unlike anything that I've ever experienced. And but much like you said, Mac, like we've played with everyone.
Right.
You know, we've played with everyone and we know these people. That day was so different. You know, we've played all of the festivals, and typically when you get a bunch of rockers together, it can turn into a dick swinging
Right.
contest backstage. But it was so not that way. It was so, everyone was so cheerful and everyone was there. We knew there was something in the air. We knew something very special, something singular was happening that day, and we were part of it. It was in the air all day long, all day long. And being able to run into so many friends that were backstage, you know. I mean, there are so many. If I even start talking about it, I'm just going to be another fucking name dropper.
Right.
But like, you know, everybody was there. But for instance, you know, I was born and I grew up in a little town called Fontana here in Southern California. It's an old recovering steel town. Well, also from Fontana is my friend Sammy Hagar.
Oh, wow.
And Sammy was there. Also from Fontana is an old friend of mine that I grew up with when I was a kid, Travis Barker.
Oh, wow.
And I hadn't seen Travis in, you know, probably 30 years. And it was so interesting being there. So I grabbed Sam and I go, we got to go take a picture with Travis. We're 3 kids from a nowhere steel town, in a steel town in the UK.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
You know, and I said, you know, what are the odds? The only 3 musicians to come out of Fontana that we're all 3 of us are here on this day. That's a pretty mind-blowing thing. And that's just one of the many encounters on that day. You know, watching Ozzy and Sabbath play their final set, you know, Robert Trujillo and I were sitting backstage talking, and we have our families with us because I had flown my family out and they were on tour with us. So I had my 5-year-old, and it was insane to be there. And then we go out into the audience with our families and we watch the whole thing, and we're part of the audience. The emotions, there was not a dry eye in the house.
Wow.
You know, watching all of this going, this is the end of an era. And we're watching it unfold. And we're watching that sunset slowly. By the very, very end, it's gone. And I think there was just an emotion sweeping over Villa Park that was just unlike anything I've ever been a part of. And I feel very honored that we were asked to be part of that monumental day.
I think watching it that day or watching the feed of it, that's what kind of came across to me. Is it seemed like everybody that was performing had the same thought, like, I can't believe I'm here. I know, right? This is so awesome. Everybody has basically the same friend. You grew up with this band.
Of course.
It helped shape who you are and where you went in your life. And, you know, as fans, we can say, well, we loved Black Sabbath. We thought it was great. But for somebody like yourself, that pointed you in the direction of what you do now as a profession. And you got to be that person that you maybe thought about, oh man, I could be on stage. I could be right now. You can. No, you really can.
Seriously, Black Sabbath. I mean, look, Black Sabbath, we toured with them for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
They brought us, they handpicked us. I mean, that's right. Imagine, you know, you're a teenager and you're sitting in the garage smoking a joint with your buddies. Oh, man, wouldn't that be so dope if Sabbath asked us to come out on tour with them?
Yeah, man.
That'd be the best. That would be, that'd be so dope. That's exactly what happened, you know. That's exactly what happened. And Sabbath gave us an education that nobody else has. Sabbath said, okay, you guys are a large theater band, you know, and you guys are doing great. We're going to let you grow into being an arena band. Borrow our arenas, borrow our stages every night. Watch us. Watch the way we do it. Watch the way everything operates backstage. We'll give you, and they're the ones that gave us our doctorate. You know, they handed it to us and they provided this to us. And it's not just the band, it's, you know, Sharon as well. So incredibly generous with us. Yeah, Sabbath gave us a gift that it is impossible to repay back to them. And so we're going to need to repay that back to the next generation. That's the only way we can make that debt right.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. It's 30 years from now. You're ready to kind of hang up Rival Sons. Just like there's no more Sabbath now, there's no more Van Halen, there's no more Kiss, really. The Rolling Stones just canceled their tour for this year. The ones who we all grew up with are gone, or they're getting to the point where they're no more. Who's going to play at the send-off for the Rival Sons in 30 years. I mean, there's still great bands out there, but it's like the industry isn't behind them. And if the kids don't know them, how are we going to get them up to the level of the Rival Sons or the Black Sabbath or whatever?
There will be someone, and rock bands will endure. And I know the industry is insane. It's
insane is a good word.
Rock has endured in spite of commerce in the same way that punk does. Rock endures in spite of commerce, and it always will. Like for us, when you choose rock and roll, you got to understand, or at least, for us, we grow out of the pavement like weeds and we come out of the trash, we can't be stopped. Rock it just can't be stopped. It's a crucial slice of the nonconformity and the rugged individualism that is woven into our very fabric. And that's why everybody likes rock, Everybody likes it, or everybody likes what it stands for. You take all of the hip hop artists and rap artists and everything. What is Jay-Z? He starts his company, calls it Rock Nation. Everybody wants to be a rock star. And even though for them it's a completely diluted term and all of that, they want that.
That's right.
They want that leather jacket, blue jeans, and Converse. They want all of these things. They want the Elvis #1 rock and roller. They want all of these things. And so every day that a kid picks up a guitar or any instrument and they want to scream for a reason they're not altogether sure of. And they want to wail and rebel against these powers that they don't even understand. It's that is going to ensure that rock will survive. And so whoever we're going to bring out at that time, well, I haven't heard them yet. But
right.
They're going to be there. I'm quite sure of it.
The good news is there will always be kids in a garage somewhere smoking pot saying, man, these guys are great. I want to be them.
Exactly. Exactly. That's certainly how I feel about it.
Hey, it's Brian Slagle. I'm the CEO of Metal Blade Records, and you're listening to the Ugly American Werewolf in London.
Well, we'll certainly have a clip or a send-off for the Weapons of Beauty coming out February 6th, but why don't you tell us about some of your other passions? We know that you are a decorated bourbon drinker, and I know that
certainly.
We would love to have you and come back to Kentucky and do the trail a little bit. The master distiller at Woodford, Elizabeth, is a friend of mine. She is lovely. She is fun, and would love to host you guys. But what have you got going on that's got you interested outside of the music world?
Oh, goodness. I mean, right now, got my hands in quite a few things. Something that's certainly had my interest is, well, let's see. I mean, there's the usual reading. There's working on vintage cars. I have an old Mercedes diesel that I just love those old cars. The other guys in like Rival Sons, they like sports cars and everything. But for me, that's not me. I like form to follow function, or at least to be in league with it. So like the old W123s and those old diesel Mercedes are really up my alley.
Cool.
Like things like that. But, the typical outdoors, camping, hiking, backpacking, these are the things that make me tick. I'm a cook, bourbon.
Yeah.
I love a good bourbon, and raising a 5-year-old. I think that is
that's fun.
That's a big one, but also, fine arts and discovering new painters. Painting is a big one for me. I'm not a painter. My younger brother, Chad, is a fantastic painter, and he keeps getting more, he keeps developing. He's self-taught, but watching him flourish has been fantastic, but also just all of the fine painters. The cover for this album was painted by my longtime good friend, Jeremy Lipking. He's one of the living masters of, classical painting worldwide. People like Brad Kunkel, or there are all of these just fantastic, fantastic painters that I love to pore over, as well as all of the greats. I love art big time. But just that, I think that, and
it's a really cool painting, no doubt about it.
The painting is incredible, and I can't believe I have a Lip King album cover.
Original.
That is, I don't have the original. He's got the original, and he'll sell that to somebody for a lot of money because his paintings they command an ungodly price. but I get to use it for my album cover, so that's good enough for me.
Well, it comes out February 6th, and well, we've heard it, but we can't wait to have the physical copy in our hands. That's for sure. Thank you so much, Jay. And I'm going to have to get one of these T-shirts off your website. The "Paint My Coffin True Black."
Oh yeah,
it's a killer T-shirt, man. I love that.
My minute is all for those that I've done wrong. Paint my casket true black, and with all I might have cost you, I hope to earn it back.
thanks. I was just talking with a friend of mine about making more T-shirt designs, and I think I'm going to go with making a few more album lyric or song lyric T-shirts like that.
Oh, cool.
I had the idea for that True Black T-shirt, and I think that's my favorite one of the three.
It's mine.
But I need to get. I think I need to get on that. So.
In goes the liquor and out comes the flame could make for a killer T-shirt, buddy.
Oh yeah, right. When I wrote that, I thought about like the circus performer,
Yeah. The
spitting.
fire breather. Yeah.
Yeah, but then also I just thought about like being at the bar and watching some people. When some people get intoxicated, the werewolf comes out.
Yeah.
And they just start talking all this trash, and next thing you know, there's a fist fight or just whatever, and it's like, these types of people where it's like when they get some liquor in them, crazy stuff happens. That's not me, Not that it hasn't, not that it's never been me.
Right. But we've all been there.
Yeah, certainly. But that's that dual, that lyric. Oh, I'm glad you like it.
I like it. And, we were so busy talking about the album. We even talked about you being a movie star now. That's
oh, right,
must have been super cool.
Being in the Deliver Me From Nowhere film, the Springsteen film, that's a huge honor for me. Working with Scott Cooper, the writer, director, and producer. Watching him work and watching his love and joy put into how hard he was working and, put into the entire project was very inspiring. Working with, alongside Jeremy Allen White and all of the other fantastic actors, and of course working with Dave Cobb on the project, it was just it was a real honor for me, and it was impactful in so many ways, so much that as soon as I finished recording the album, I got a hold of Scott Cooper, who made that film, and I asked him to sequence the record for me. So Scott Cooper sequenced the record. He was very, very, very generous of him to do that for me. But his way of storytelling, for some reason, I developed a really good relationship with Scott, even though it was very brief. I was working together. But for some reason, I knew that I could trust him to do a part of the story, to take hold of a part of this journey. I knew that I could trust him and that it would be in good hands. And he was just so, so kind and gave me a full dissertation on, okay, this is the song that starts and here's why. Here's your protagonist. And I thought he did a fantastic job. And that's the sequence. That's the sequence of the record.
He did. Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. All right. Well, you've been very generous with your time, so I do appreciate it and wish you all the best on the new album. Anything else you want to say? Are you doing any dates to promote this at all?
I plan to.
Okay.
I plan to. I had like a full tour, European tour, US tour. I had all of this planned out, but unfortunately, like in the last couple of weeks, my wife she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh no.
She's going to be okay and all of that stuff. Science and the treatments are incredible, but it's going to be something for us to go through. And so I'm just hitting the pause button on everything. And then once we get through that, I'll hit the road again.
Gotcha. Well, no, you do that. You take care of your family. You take care of your wife.
Absolutely.
We'll pray for her and look forward to hearing you, whether you're solo or out with the boys, man.
Oh yeah. Well, Rival Sons needs to make a record. And so we're going to be doing that. We're going to be touring. I'm going to be touring. It's going to be a very, very busy year. As soon as everything picks back up around here, it's going to be quite the tour.
Awesome.
I definitely look forward to getting back out there and touring and singing every night, whether it's my solo stuff or with the band. That's the fountain of youth, and it's a tonic to these weary years.
I agree with you. Please do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for the interest, guys, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
All the best in 2026, Jay.
Thanks. You have a good one.
All right, take care. He speaks softly, but he carries a big stick, Jackson.
There was a lot of content there. It was a very heartfelt, very thought out responses to these questions. Wow. That was not what I would expect from a quote unquote rock star. Usually it's, hey, can't wait. And, there wasn't any kind of gloss on it. It was just kind of somebody who has thought about this for a long time, really spent a long time crafting this album and just wants to put it out in the world.
Yeah, the anti-image. It's not an interview with David Lee Roth or
right, exactly.
Vince Neil or something.
Yeah.
This is an introspective man. It's funny because he's not nostalgic, so he doesn't look back, and yet he has the power to convey all these things that he's felt over a lifetime and what it all means to him right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And just that, like we were talking about, there are stories that I can't relate to. But the way that he was talking about them, like, okay, I see where you're coming from. Not just like, oh, I have no reference to that. Like, right. I could see how you would feel that way in that moment. Yeah, this was way more heavy duty than I thought. I'm like, oh, like I said, that the Caroline one, when I figured out that she was dead, and you're spending the rest of your life waiting to get back to her,
tough.
Just kick me right in the gut. Why don't you?
I know. Well, I can't wait to hold it in my hands. I mean, I've heard the whole thing, but I can't wait to have it in front of me here.
And everything looks cool. I know we're big fans of I guess retro would be the best idea. I mean, that looks like, if I didn't know anything about it, I would say that was like a, album from the 70s.
Yeah,
like,
60s or 70s. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
The painting on there, it looks really cool.
Yeah, no doubt. So go buy Weapons of Beauty.
Please.
Support your singer-songwriters.
And apparently stay on the website, because he does plan to tour. I was a little disappointed when I'm like, okay, cool. When's the tour start? And then nothing. Now we figured out why. It's just being delayed. But
That's right.
I'm trying to think like, how much pain will I put up with for this? Like, where will I go?
How far will I have to go?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I would imagine he'd be in Nashville.
I was going to say, he's got to play Nashville.
Yeah.
All his boys are there.
Like, that's
maybe he plays Savannah, since he recorded it there.
That would be phenomenal if he did that. A lot easier on me. But I thought that was really interesting too. Like, you live in LA, everybody in Nashville, but you came to Savannah to record the record. That's interesting and gives it a little bit of a different twist.
Well, hey, credit 9-time Grammy winner Dave Cobb for knowing how to get the right people in the right place to make the best music. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great to talk with Jay Buchanan of the Rival Songs all about Weapons of Beauty, his new solo album out February 6th. One mistake I want to clear up is I said the lyrics were Paint My Coffin True Black. It's actually Paint My Casket True Black. And if you go to jbuchanan.com, you can order a t-shirt that says Paint My Casket True Black. It's what we were talking about on the show. He's got a couple of cool t-shirts on there, and he's the kind of person that I would encourage you to buy t-shirts from. Don't just buy the album, and you can get it on vinyl, you can get streaming, you can do a digital download, or you can get on CD like I'm going to get it. But it's important to support singer-songwriters. And I know Jay's pretty successful. The Rival Sons are a big, successful, worldwide band. But doing these kind of side projects is what really feeds an artist's soul. You can tell from our conversation how much it meant to Jay to make this record, how personal it was for him, and how important it was after all these years of being with the hard rockin' Rival Sons to be able to express himself in a different way. Something that's always been there, but maybe he hasn't had the opportunity to unleash within the band Rival Sons. Also want to point out that, yes, Cameron Crowe was forced out to throw away a lot of his backstage passes and tickets and things like that, but in doing so, he wrote Almost Famous, a fantastic movie about being on the road in the early 70s and a very personal one to him. Just like when Jay had to throw out all of his memories of being a young man and maybe early in his career, but he still wrote a great song because of it. And so while it's important to understand the past, cherish your fond memories and learn from your mistakes, it's also important that you don't live back there, that all the good stuff is in front of you. And while we're proud of the 300 or so episodes we've done on Ugly American Werewolf in London and First Concert Memories, we're not really thinking a whole lot about what we've done in the past. We're thinking about who are we going to get on in the future, which albums are we going to discuss, which concerts, which artists are we going to get to talk to. That's what it's all about. That's what keeps us going forward, and I think it's what keeps Jay going forward as well. And we want to know, folks, did we get something right? Did we get something wrong? Did we miss the point? Did we leave out your favorite part? You got to email us and let us know. It's uglyamericanwerewolf@gmail.com. You can let us know the bands, the albums, tours, the concerts, the books, the DVDs, the rock properties you want to hear us talk about here on the show. We need you to be sure and download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you really want to help us out, hey, please go give us a 5-star review. It just means the world to us. It helps us find more rock and rollers like you. And if you send it our way, we might just read it on an episode. Thanks as always to Pantheon Podcast for making us part of the family. And thanks to our sponsor, rarevinyl.com, where if you can use the code UGLY to save 10% off one entire order. We thank Jay Buchanan for coming on the show. We wish him all the best of luck with Weapons of Beauty. You need to go out and buy it and stream it and download it. Maybe even buy a t-shirt from jbuchanan.com. And look forward to a new Rival Sons record coming out before too long, and a tour. And a tour to promote Weapons of Beauty from Jay and tours from the Rival Sons. Sounds like 2026 is going to be a great year, and we think it's off to a great start here on The Wolf. That's it for this week. More great interviews are on the horizon, more great album reviews, and we're going to see some killer shows this year that we can't wait to talk to you about, so you're going to have to stay tuned. And until next time, to all you rockers all around the world, be cool and keep doing what you do to keep rock alive.